But I also feel like COVID was more of a catalyst as well. Like it showed the issues that were already brewing in our societies, but also it wasn't the best situation because it left a lot of people in worse off situations, and it increased, the wealth gap. I think the billionaires made billions of dollars during the COVID pandemic, and I think almost all the politicians made a lot of money. But the regular folk, they had their savings wiped away, and the support that they got from most governments was scarce, and it was just entire years that was wasted. And it's even worse off for the people who weren't able to travel and move out of the country that they were in, especially China and less developed nations where they basically had to stay at home the whole time. So it basically showed like the huge inequalities in the world as well, because it showed that, okay, people with wealth and resources could live their life in luxury. They had food delivered to them. They didn't have to worry about stuff. But the regular folk, I remember that people had to go out to buy groceries, and they were getting beaten up by the cops because there was a curfew. Well, what are you supposed to do? You can't live without groceries, and it's not feasible for everyone to order groceries online or stuff like that, right? It's kind of weird. It kind of showed these inequalities, but it's also weird how quickly we forget all the stuff that actually turned up. Like even with the environmental stuff, do you remember that it was COVID? It was the first time during COVID that dolphins came back to Venice. The canals were so clean that dolphins came back, and literally like 6 months after Venice reopened, tourists flooded it, and after that, the dolphins are gone again. And it's crazy how we don't look back to that and see that all the changes that happened and try to keep the positive parts of it, and look at the negative parts and improve on that. It's crazy how quick our attention spans are. It just vanishes.
I agree. I think the big problem is with the leadership structure at the moment, and I think that the part of the problem is that leadership structure, which is largely people of my age and above, is of a generation where they're no longer bought into the next 20-year plan. They're bought into the next, if they get lucky, the next 4 or 5 years. Many of the leaders I work with, at the very senior levels of very many big organizations, it's really about getting them across the line in a personal sense to their pension fund. And so that's a very different way of governing and leading now in these very different and difficult and volatile times. So I think what's necessary is to really engage younger leadership. That's one part of it. So for me, what I call Gen Z and Millennials really need to be part of the leadership function already. And I think that the people who are at the top, they've got to think about leadership in very different ways. They've got to set out game plans which are much longer, really focus on the things that matter. There's going to be all this disruption coming from AI and various other means. And we've got to really focus on it and be excited about the possibility of a fabulous future, that this positive enablement that AI and many of these other technologies are going to bring. If we're fearful of them, that's exactly what's going to happen. It's going to be disastrous. If we're positive and we're excited and we understand how they can augment and improve and bring joy to our society, that's what they'll bring.